Welcome to the MMIA podcast. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Joanne. How are you doing, love?
I'm doing great, thank you. And today we are going to talk about a question that's come up in our classroom. And that is confidence in queuing. And one of the stories that came forward from someone in the group who had been listening to you sharing about how you were teaching was that you're so clear about how someone's moving that you have a great deal of confidence because you always know you can make a difference and you know how to make that difference. You've got a lot of confidence in what you say to them. And I remember when you and I were teaching together on one occasion, and you know how super polite I am. Well, not always, but most of the time. And I had said to that person, what you just did was very beautiful, and it might be better if you did it like this. And you said, don't talk rubbish. It wasn't beautiful at all. It'll hurt her if she carries on doing that. And you went for it. And I remember standing there thinking, oh my God, charm school, not. But, great big huge, with your amazing Wigan accent, you can do it in Wiganese in a very Paul way, a very archetypal way.
Yep.
And one of our specialists in the group basically said to me, Paul takes no prisoners, Paul's a soldier, and Paul can talk to people from that place. There's no way I can do that. First, I'm a girl. Secondly, I'm and started to get in a bit of a pickle if that's what honest, confident instruction was based on. And I was like, hold on a second. Movement is archetypal, and so is the way you teach it. And one of the things that we're teaching and working with you to do is find a way for yourself of expressing very honestly how that person is moving in a way that's honest about them. It's not an accusation, it's not a criticism, it's not a judgment. It's just a very useful assessment. For example, let's talk about you, Paul. You can move absolutely beautifully in a spiral to the left because you've been doing it for friggin' decades, and not quite so fluently and beautifully to the right. So no one's beating you up because you're not symmetrical, unless they are, but we don't. What we're saying is, honestly, you move brilliantly to the left, more fluently, more articulately, in more detail. You speak in a very different accent to the left than you do to the right. But it's so important that you know that, because that's honest movement. And what this person was expressing, and it was a brilliant discussion and a brilliant challenge, was this fear that her version of being honest with somebody was very different to yours.
Yeah.
But when we teased it out together, and I pointed out that you speak with a beautiful Wigan accent and it's fluent Wiganese, and unless you've got Paul's manner, Paul's history, Paul's authentic Wiganese way, we've got to find your authentic you way. You do you and I'll do me and he'll do him. And I think this is one of the things that we have to address in teaching movement, that it's not just a certain way of teaching movement. When we're teaching someone mastery, myofascial mastery, they have to recognize the language or the dialect of the person they're speaking with and speak to them in it, but honoring themselves at the same time. So I wanted to talk to you in this podcast a bit about that confidence in queuing.
Well, as confident as she thinks I am, I'm quite insecure.
I don't believe you.
I promise you on my life. So here's the thing I know I've learned over now 20 years of teaching and being taught, and now then being an educator, and now assessing people who want to take my job.
Yeah, you're an instructor trainer.
I was for many years, and I now mentor instructors.
We still are.
I still mentor instructors that have already met the basic criteria and help them elevate their status, because I want them to understand what they're saying in a much more profound and comprehensive way, that confidence is oozing from them, because that oozing confidence, it becomes a cueing masterclass, which reflects how much they respect the knowledge they've attained and how useful that knowledge then is in their interpretation of what they're seeing. So it's putting it all together, but let's be honest, it takes years of making many mistakes to find your own voice, because it's not easy to stand up as you're a global presenter, and you can stand up with the best of them and hold an audience in the palm of your hand. But behind the screens and off screen, you're like a shivering leaf, and you're so
You're not supposed to tell anybody that.
I'm telling them all, because honestly, it's about being honest about your own personality and why you shine so brightly, because of who you are behind the screen. Because when my wife sees me, and she knows when I'm about to do a presentation, because I pace around the apartment like a wild cat. I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, it's like I'm warming myself up before I go online. I get really nervous, I get really sweaty, I get irritated by white noise. I'm trying to concentrate. And it's because I find myself trying to access and tap into confidence of what I've learned and how I'm going to be perceived by the audience in front of me or the individuals. So even going into a general class, I leave the door open on purpose, because I want people to hear me talking, because it makes me then accountable for what I say and why I say it. Whereas I've seen other instructors close the door, so there's nobody hearing them, because it's safe. I make sure that I really make myself vulnerable, so it keeps me honest for as long as I can. Because I'm really nervous, because I used to invite people and instructors who were students to come and watch, so that I made sure that what I was asking them to do on the course, I was reflecting in real time. I wasn't asking them to do something that was not realistic or fair. And when they came to see me, I wasn't doing any of the things that I was asking them to do, and I was being unreasonable. I wanted them to see how well you can teach if you really hold yourself accountable to what you're saying and why you're saying it, to who you're saying it to. And it's really hard, but it's bloody rewarding, and it really is invigorating. And I come out of each class like I've performed a play, like I really put my heart and soul into every single class I've ever taught, whether it's a one-on-one or 20-to-1, or I've taught hundreds sometimes on these big conventions, because I want them to get that I am passionate about why I'm sharing this information in such a very diligent and specific way, because I want them to own it so that they don't require me, that they utilize me to entertain them, to make sure that I'm guiding them, that I'm holding them accountable, and that they find the information I'm sharing about what I see them doing valuable to them personally. And this is hard. It's very hard, but that's what I love. It's like an actor only becomes a world famous actor a lot of time out of luck. It's luck of the networking, luck of your connections.
Who saw you that day?
Who saw you that time. And it's about luck, so you can practice and practice and practice. But if you don't keep putting yourself in vulnerable positions to get that lucky break, to get somebody like me to go, oh, come here, let me help you. I'll listen to you say something. Let me help you explain that differently. You create these patterns of teaching that it becomes less of a masterclass of cueing and more of a script-orientated repertoire that you're repeating.
Oh, I don't think there's any joy in that. And I remember when you and I were teaching together in Dubai last year, and we hadn't had a chance to prepare it. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, my goodness me, they rang us out of the blue. And we had such a great time, but we were also so vulnerable because we didn't know what was expected of us. We didn't know whether there were going to be 2 people or 22 people. We did not expect them to say, can we send all the staff over from the entire convention? We want them to hear this. That's right. It was all a bit like, oh my God. And we had such a great laugh. And you were absolutely brilliant. The way you just pull someone out of the audience and, right, come on, do this, show us how this. Now, can you all see what I'm saying here? Mm-hmm. Now let's get you doing it like this. And you kind of knew you've done this before. It's not like it's new to you. As you said, you develop this confidence through the vulnerability is what I'm getting. Yes. That you were able to kind of set up the sequence of what you knew was going to happen, but you always let the client win
That's right.
as they discover the keys. And I think you've become very adept. I mean, you say you pace like a cat, but that's part of a process that you know you're going to
Correct.
fly.
That's it. I'm setting myself up to succeed
Yes.
rather than because that when we do those things off the fly and I get invited somewhere, I always say yes. Often I should say no, but I always say yes because I'm like, this is the opportunity to test myself, to test my system, to test my interpretation of the knowledge I'm a custodian of. I've learned it off you and John and Jap and all these amazing people, but they've given me this information for now. And I've got to share it. I've got to give it away as well and be as generous. But I want to honor what I learned, even though sometimes I'm critical of it. But that's okay because I've critiqued it with them and they've allowed me to translate it in a way that honors it rather than just mimics it. So that's where your own personality is super valuable because when I was teaching courses and I'd watch people practice teaching, and I love it. I love watching people teach because I love what they come up with and how creative they get, or they just mimic me. And when you say about my Wiganese, and I work in the Middle East, and I taught some courses where there's sometimes be 15, and every single person was from a different country. Well, what am I going to do? I can't learn all those languages. I didn't even learn English when it was my turn to go to school. I only knew the way I talked, right? So they would come off that 40 or 50 hour experience with me, and they would all speak Wiganese. It was just the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah.
I spoke very fast in my early part of my career. I still speak fast now, but I spoke very fast then. And we just came up with a deal. I'll speak slower if you listen faster. Because it's a joint energy that it's this reciprocal relationship. And then you would watch them practice teach. And again, it's about attaining this confidence. And because they weren't confident in their own voice and in their own language, they would mimic me. And then they were trying to say the same jokes, the same interpretation, the same reflections of movement as I do. And it sounds weird. And I go, what do you mean? And then often they would say something, I go, where did you get that from? Because it sounded terrible. And they go, well, you say it all the time. And I go, oh, bloody hell, do I really? And it was really funny to watch me being mirrored in these different variations and these different nationalities. So what I always encourage them to do at first, as a new instructor, finding your way and, testing the waters, because it is nerve-wracking. It's to practice outside of the class. Don't let the class be your main performance.
What do you mean by that? Practice on your own, you mean?
Yeah, practice on your own. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Talk to yourself all the time in the shower. Practice on other people. Just tell them one thing. Talk about one element of what you're going to do and see what comes off. Tape it, audio tape it, so you hear what you say and go, oh my God, I didn't know I had that style of expressing something. I didn't know that's the way I described it. Oh my God, I don't describe it at all. I just say a word. I don't know what I meant. And then when you go to do it in real time, you've prepared the ground for yourself. You know you have your favorite phrases. You know the things you're confident about talking about. Do that first. Do the things you're good. And then test the water with something you're not familiar with. Like maybe there's a sequence or a position or a pose or a repertoire that's just really technical. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to explain. And then just add that into the mix and go, let's see how I manage testing my ability to share that with this audience that didn't do any of the training that I did.
Well, we have a principle in all the, I've been teaching for, oh my goodness, I can't think now how many years, decades. And I just have I'm rigorous about it. If I haven't experienced it myself, if it's movement, if I haven't experienced it myself, if it's manual therapy, if I haven't experienced it myself, do not attempt to teach it. And I'm so rigorous about that rule. I don't even know if it's true or right or good, but what I do know,
way, right? It's
the way that, beneficial. If I haven't experienced those micro movements that I'm teaching, or I haven't experienced that structural integration move that I'm teaching, I haven't got enough. Let me give you an example. Imagine that you were teaching something and somebody was watching you teach or listening to you teach, and then you heard them go off and teach it, but they'd never done it.
Yep.
They'll sound fine in their delivery, maybe, because they've got the confidence to deliver and they've taught before. But when anyone comes back with a question that's outside the box, you literally watch their confidence seep away. And we had a rule in the teach training. Yeah. If you haven't practiced this posture yourself and you haven't found what you can and can't do and why you can and can't do it, so you haven't got any questions and you haven't got any somatic experience of it, don't teach it.
Yes.
go and practice it and then teach it. You don't have to teach it brilliantly, but for goodness sake, teach it from experience.
Well,
because
it's more
then you've
tangible,
got that, you exactly, and you've got that inner awareness from your somatic experience to call on.
Yes.
And at worst, you are sharing your own experience.
Well, you're
right?
teaching then as more substance to it. However, not everybody can do that and doesn't like to do that. And that's for whatever reason they don't do it. What I encourage people to do is teach what they see, not teach what they remember. Now that requires a very different type of learning skill. So when I was setting my instructors up to learn, I didn't just teach them the repertoire, and I would show them, copy me, show them, copy me, repeat and rinse throughout the course. I would make sure that they understood what I was saying and they experienced it. So my course was a lot more condensed with a lot more information, so that when they left, they realized what the responsibility was of sharing something, that they understood why you were being so specific about a foot position or an angle or what you were trying to observe happen in a certain sequence, rather than just mimic a motion that was similar, same, but very different to the individuals. So I held them more accountable rather than copy and pasting like I was narrating the book to them, that they could repeat and copy and just say it out loud. I wanted them to understand with more substance what the words meant and what those words reflected in actual movement of very many people, because each person will approach it differently. Each people will have a certain strength or they'll have a certain limitation within each of these opportunities. And that's a lot harder. But to set them up with that sort of expectation so that they went away and didn't just try to remember the book. I wanted them to understand the words on the page and bring them to life in their cueing style. But what I found really valuable and what I found really negative was, and I tried to eradicate it at the very beginning, is to stop positively complimenting negative, poor movement. And what I mean by that is, if something is going really wrong, and you go, oh, good job, amazing work, guys, oh, that's amazing, fantastic, and it's not, when you correct it the following week in the next session, and they assume it's what they're doing is good, and they go, what do you get? They get very confused. And it's one thing to give somebody encouragement, because you want them to feel that they're succeeding, and it's not the end of the world if they move too poorly, but you're trying to guide them. It just sets the stall out that it becomes very fake and it's very ingenuous. There's no authenticity to your teaching. You're just overpraising a poor movement experience. However, if you say, hold on a second, what I asked you to do was, but what you actually did was this. Now, what I'm looking for is this because, and explain the whys. So that when those questions come up that your clients get, because you haven't done it yourself, so your foundation disintegrates when somebody asks you a question. Why? Why can't I do that? Why are you not praising that? Why are you stopping me doing this? Why are you avoiding me going too hard or too fast? Why are you pushing me too much? That you have some substance to your answers to these specific questions coming from an individual or the group. And now what you do, you set them up to succeed, and yourself more importantly. And you won't know the answers to all the questions. That's also okay. That's why you have mentors and colleagues and friends and peers to share your experience and go, that's why you must self-audit and go, listen, in the class today, I don't know what happened. I really thought I had it all organized. I got them all in the right modification. I thought I had the right flow. And it didn't work. This person was crying in the corner. Did I do something wrong? And then you can debrief. Everything with quality is about debriefing, so you understand and you offload your own frustrations and your own insecurities, and you get them addressed by somebody who's going to give you constructive criticism, helpful guidance. And that's why it's important, I believe, you should take all your sessions initially, at least for a year, because you'll see the transformation of yourself. But the last thing I really like to do, the really important thing to do, especially where we are, is stop trying to mimic me and be yourself. And sometimes I used to make them teach in their own language, because anatomy is generally in Latin. And I don't speak Latin, but I remember the words and the names of the muscles and all of that. And often you find that they're trying to speak a language that's not natural. Because remember, they've got to translate it into their own thought process. Translate it so it comes out in a different language. It might be the second or third language to somebody else who has to interpret how you've interpreted it and then apply it in movement in a timely fashion before you give them a whole host of follow-up cues. So I would say, listen, for the first 10 minutes, you're only allowed to speak Arabic. And they go, well, you don't know what I'm saying? I says, I don't need to. You need to relax and be in your own tongue and get comfortable in the room, get comfortable with who's in the room with you, get comfortable with the atmosphere, the environment you're creating. It's your atmosphere. Turn the music off. You become the music first. So you're not getting distracted by all these other things. Get yourself settled. And then start coming out with the dialogue that you want to share. And forgive yourself for tripping over and not using the right word sometimes, or using an inappropriate word occasionally. That's life. That's conversation. It's okay. And if you mix and match with the audience, Arabic and English and French and German and all other known languages, so what? What's the big deal? You're still communicating, because people will still respond to the words, the tone of your words. When you're talking, you're laughing. People pick up on that. And often they try to hide behind music or behind counting or a sequence or a script that they're just following because it's safer. And I say, I dare you to be brave. Because it's like this, it's like the pilots, they practice in the simulator a lot. But in real life, they have to get on a real airplane and they have to carry real passengers and there's real weather and it's going to be unpredictable. So you're setting yourself up to be confident when things don't go quite to your A plan, because all plans fail. No matter how good your class plan is, it will always fail because the person in the room that has come to your class didn't know you wrote that out. They weren't there. They weren't part of your plan. They just turned up in a bad mood or a happy mood, or they're celebrating, or somebody's died. Whatever, there could be 1,000 things. And your plan falls apart because it doesn't meet the emotion and the environmental harmony that's there already. It's not aligned with it. So at first, let yourself settle in. Find out who's in the room and what mood they're in, depending on the time of the day, early morning, late evening, an afternoon class, whatever it is. Those even times of the day change how people want to move. Some people want to really be pushed hard and sweat. Other people want to calm down. Other people want you to be very technical and they want to know why they're doing something. Other people don't care at all. They just want to move. They just like being there. Good, whatever the reason there is. But find out about them so that what you're saying is useful, not just repetitive. And if it's useful, then repeat that. But know that it's useful within that moment, but it might not be so useful in the next moment.
It really is about the quality of a conversation, isn't it? And having the confidence to just speak authentically from your experience, from your recognition of what's happening in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think one of my recommendations to everybody is to bring yourself present to the room over remembering your repertoire. Because the truth is, all plans are plans to contain something that may or may not happen.
Yes.
And if there's, as you said, extra variables that you literally can't predict, you get used over time to kind of dancing with the moment, don't you, really?
That's exactly right. It's waiting for the variables to reveal themselves, and you've got to think on your toes. And I think that's the skill of being a good instructor of any modality in any field. We're talking about movement and therapy, but it could be anything. You have to roll with the atmosphere and the reaction to what you're saying, and then see how it's interpreted by the people in front of you. What did they actually do? And what they actually do with your words and your cueing might change the direction of your class completely. It might do a full 360 and come back. And then go back to where you were. I mean, because that's the nature. But you can only do that, and this is, I think, really important, if you own your material. And by owning it, you must invest time in learning it. So that then you're learning it, you can recall it, you can utilize, you can filter, you can modify. You do it instinctively, so it just comes to you because you use it really well, rather than just repeat it. And once somebody sends you off track, you don't know how to get back on. And then you stutter. And that will happen, but it will happen. And it's only through those experiences of setting yourself up to fail is where you'll be successful. So knowing that you've set yourself up to do a brilliant job, do that first, but knowing that it's going to fall on its butt, you're going to. But it's okay, because your bum is cushioned. You're working hard to do all your glute exercises, for Christ's sake. It's going to be amazing. And you're going to bounce right back. But it's knowing how you bounce back. Have your recovery exercise, your recovery pose, the thing that is your safety net if you need to, like a reset movement. But you filter them into your day and your experience over attaining that experience. But avoid closing the door. Be more interactive with your communities and your colleagues and let them join in. Let them ask questions. It's great to have a much more interactive room rather than a room of just passive people lying on the floor, sweating unnecessarily and grunting and not talking to each other. Much more fun when they interact with you.
I think it takes a certain kind of courage, and I encourage everyone to do it, which is to allow for the possibility when you go in that you actually don't know what you're in for. And I don't mean don't plan your class, because I think planning a class in advance is about, for me, creating a sacred circle. I don't quite know what's going to come up. I always hold this sort of mystery aspect to it. But the fact that I've taken the time and the trouble to present it, to present it in advance,
Yes.
to frame it, it means that in advance of that happening, I've been conscious and conscientious about going there.
Yes.
And then if I get there and I've got this, fabulous class planned for feet, and two people turn up with, I don't know what, their legs in plaster, but they've come anyway, and it's like, this class isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Okay. You get there and you used this phrase earlier, forgive yourself for how it shows up. But you're actually ready to riff because you did the preparation. You can't stay attached to what you prepared, but you can provide a profound foundation because you prepared.
Yes.
Prepared means they have a beautiful phrase in French, mise en place. You put in place the possibilities. And, when I was teaching yoga, I always used to do this thing called a mandala class plan. It was in the round, and it had 2 or 3 themes within it. And what it meant was, through the process of preparing it, even if I ended up teaching something very different, it always had this 3-dimensionality to it. Yeah. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It had a process.
Yeah, each class should be a story.
It is, I think.
Yes,
and what I would call a maverick theme had room to show itself up.
Yes.
And I remember once, I must share this, was that when my father and my son were both in my yoga class. Oh my God, Paul. They both have the eternal child. They both have the cheeky chappy. They both have the prankster.
Yeah.
And so a joke unplayed is just like, it's a criminal offence. Yeah. How can you not take the mickey out of mum?
Correct.
In front of grandpa, And honestly, I tell you, I needed a medal. And if I had gone in there attached to my class plan or determined that they should behave themselves perfectly, it wouldn't have worked, because I knew the two of them would get the giggles. I absolutely knew that they would take the mickey out of me. And no matter what happened, if something could go wrong, or one of them farted in the middle of the quiet part, or something had to happen to make it so that, what's mum going to do? You could hear Ben thinking. And actually, it was wonderful, because it was one particular occasion when he turned up with 3 of his friends, and both my parents were in the classroom. And I think it was the most rigorous training God could have given me, because if you can manage that lot, you can handle an awful lot of stuff. Without being thrown, without being put off, without throwing your own weight around, without bossing them around, because it's hopeless. It's like herding spiders. And I had to dance with it, but I still was on a bound to make a class that had a beginning and a middle and an end for everybody else that was in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that was the key for me. The fact that I'd done the preparation, but I came in with the preparation in one hand and the question, is this actually going to happen, in the other. You dance between, like juggling balls with those two things.
Yeah.
You can end up having, everyone actually had a great time and held with laughter. And
that's great. That's a great advice, right? For any aspiring instructor, like your script writing, your storytelling. So I personally, I go with a theme. So I try to arrive with a theme in my mind and see how that theme unravels. But there's a 1,000 ways to teach, but just make sure that it's you that's teaching. That's the main thing, right? Like, it's not karaoke. You're not trying to mimic the famous singer. You are the singer, right? So, and enjoy it. It's a fabulous role we
You're the
have.
performer, yeah.
It's a really fantastic role we have in the world. And just make sure that you're honest to yourself, because if you are, you'll have the greatest career. I promise them. I promise all instructors that I meet. And I've helped some become really great instructors. And I've stopped others in the track because not everybody is an instructor. Because it's just not their field. Like, not everybody will be a dentist. Not everybody will drive a cab. Not everybody will fly a plane. Not everybody will be an instructor. But the ones that can should. And they should be encouraged to, in the best way possible, to allow their natural instructing to evolve. And even that when they get stuck and it's not so natural, that you cultivate it and you help them find their feet. But it's important that they know that within a year, they'll be completely different. In 5 years, they'll be a different person. And in 10 years, it'll be unrecognizable from what they started. And it's just that process
Completely, just
building
from
confidence and enjoying that journey, because it is so rewarding. And it's such a pleasure to share things you've learned and help somebody do the most remarkable things with their body that they didn't know they could do, or they didn't know why they should be doing. And when you introduce that to somebody and you see the smile on their face, or you alter just the tiniest thing and it changes everything, it's like, oh my God, I worked it out. And those small successes mean so much to everybody, but you should recognize them in yourself, like you did it. You were the one that uncovered that little gem, that little treasure. It's something that they weren't even looking for it half the time. And it's the most remarkable position to be in. So honor it and explore it and really embrace this role that you've chosen to join.
I'm gonna finish this up with a word that came up today for me with one of our specialists. And that was that for me, teaching movement is a ministry.
Yeah.
And I want to create the ministry of magical movement with you, because that's what I think we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's ministering, as in serving someone. It's a service using the healing arts that you're trained in.
Yeah.
And coming from doing your best at the time, not to people please, because otherwise they're designing the class, not
Correct.
you, and it's your job.
Yes, exactly.
And being a minister in that you are serving them with what seems optimal given where they're at and your expertise and how they meet at the time, and honouring all parties. And I think if you come from that intention and permission to be human and make mistakes and not get it all perfect, without trying to control what people are doing, without trying to control how the class works. You know, I remember once I invited somebody to come in and play a squeeze box during the class, because it was yoga and I was teaching them to chant. And one of the clients just was going nuts. This sound literally sent her crazy.
Yeah.
And she felt she was coming to the class it was yoga for relaxation, that particular class. Early evening, really slow down, calm down. I used to joke with them, don't rush for a relaxation class.
Yes, that's right.
It's a self-defeating exercise. Just get here and unwind. And that was the purpose of it. And she was so disturbed and distressed by the sound of this that it was a failed experiment.
Yeah.
And when I realized the state she was in, I asked the person to stop playing, because I didn't think it would be a problem for everybody. And we just did a little bit of humming and chanting, and everybody calmed down, and it was completely manageable. And I never asked them to come back again.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying everything's perfect.
No.
But it was chosen as a ministry, and it wasn't designed to be unbearable for anybody. And so it was modified in progress.
Yes.
So I think if we approach things as a work in progress, but with quiet confidence in our authenticity and who we are. Somebody said to me in one of those classes once, what's the difference between self-confidence, self-esteem, and arrogance? It's a great question, and I remember thinking about it really carefully, and I came up with the word volume. Because one of the things I've discovered is that when I'm really, really confident and relaxed, I can say very little very quietly. I know you can't imagine me saying little, but it is possible. And I can say it very quietly.
Yes.
And it has all the impact I need.
It means so
when
much.
It's truly coming from self-esteem. I can just look at someone and go, no.
Yes.
It doesn't have to have anything, no charge. I just go, no. Let's try this. because I'm so confident and clear about what I'm looking at.
Yes.
And what I think happens when someone is coming without that confidence, but actually it's arrogance, that arrogance that I think I know everything and you're wrong and I'm right and this is the way.
Yeah.
They tend often to be loud and insistent.
Yeah.
And they're drumming it home. So I it's just a thought. It's not like I'm not trying to make a theory or philosophy out of it, but I think confidence really comes from knowing it's okay and pausing as you deliver it, because you somehow gives you the time to just quietly, try that. You know, it's soft. I know you do. I've watched you teach. It's brilliant.
You can embrace the arrogance of your confidence if you want to.
Yes, you can. That's true.
And be really loud and vibrant. But no, I take your point. Really good. I shared this today. This morning. It's just so people get a sense of how delicate you can be. So I had a lady in my class today, and she was very upset. I didn't know who she was. I asked her her name. I think she was Spanish. But she was really she was distressed. So I was doing the class, I kept my eye on her and I kept helping everybody else. But towards the end, she was really upset. She was sat in the corner and she said, Paul, I'm really dizzy. I said, relax. I thought, how can I help her feel comfortable? Because I didn't want her to have she'd had a very unpleasant session with herself, whatever's going on in her own world. So what I did, I just cued everybody to go onto their hands and knees. And I think you call it child's pose. Some people call it a shell stretch, but I wanted to curl up like a ball. And I made them all stay there, and I kept cueing them about breath, what they're experiencing, what they might try to introduce to their bones as they fill the lungs. I was just guiding them. There was like 8 other people. And I asked this lady, invited her to come to the mat, and I turned her upside down. I said, lie on your back, and I just cradled her head. And I just tried to organize her so that she relaxed. And I was very quiet and private with her, but I made sure that she was comfortable. But I didn't want her to feel vulnerable in front of everybody else.
So they couldn't see her because they were in child pose,
their heads down, they're focusing on my queuing up them. While I was dealing with this lady and trying to address whatever's going on in her life. I have no idea. But she really received it well. And she was like, thank you. I said, you're welcome. We're in no rush. I said, guys, keep going. We're going to do 2 more minutes, which is about let's do another 12 breaths. I just was talking nonsense. I just kept them distracted until this lady started. She had a little cry. And she went, thank you. I said, no problem. And I sat her up first. And then I brought everybody up. I said, guys, whenever you're ready, you can go up now. So they had no idea what was going on. There's no need to make her feel more uncomfortable than she already was. But I think it's just that as an instructor, it's very important that sometimes it's not all about the movement. It's about the emotional impact you can have and that support that we offer. And because I want that girl to go home feeling that she was looked after, not felt more abused in a movement class, that should help reward her for coming. And I have no idea still what happened to her. I let her go away, and if she comes back and she explains to me, I'll listen to her. But I didn't want to be invasive of her private life. But something was going on before the class happened. And anyway, that was how I wrapped up that class. But again, I did that out of confidence of understanding of how to interact with my clients individually. Even a complete stranger, this is the first time she'd ever been in my room. But she would receive the tactile feedback I gave her willingly and really, really benefited from that. Just that few moments of, okay, I'm not being threatened. My neck's in a nicer place. I don't feel as dizzy. And I wanted to calm her down before she went out and got back in a car and went home. And but just to pay attention to the room. And then that way I will always self-audit myself. And that's what I encourage instructors to do. Just self-audit what happened in the room. Did you do your very best job? Did you perform your very best? And if you didn't, that's okay. But at least a recognition of what happened and how you managed each individual opportunity to perform. And it will be different to each class and to each person within each class. And you'll get it right a lot of the times, and you'll get it wrong just as much. But your intention is honest and pure as it can be, and then you won't go far wrong.
On which note, as ministers in the healing arts, all you movement teachers out there, we send you lots of love and lots of magic, and we wish you well in your obvious intentions to make a difference to other people. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.